When I refused to pay for my sister's fancy destination wedding, Dad screamed. "You're dead to me," I said. "Cool, then don't call when you need help." But 3 weeks later, I should have seen it coming. The way my sister Rachel made her announcement, you'd think she was revealing the next royal wedding. She stood at the head of the dinner table, eyes glowing like the chandelier above us, and said, "We've decided to have the wedding in the Maldives." Not a wedding. The wedding. As if anyone else had ever mattered. Everyone clapped, of course. Mom gasped and clutched her chest like she just heard Rachel landed on the moon. Even my younger brother Matt nodded with a kind of glassy admiration. I just blinked. The Maldives? That wasn't a wedding. That was a bank heist in disguise. Rachel and I have never been close. She's the baby, 5 years younger, raised like a pampered poodle, while I got the workhorse treatment. I'm 33 now. The dependable oldest. The fixer. The guy who helped Dad out when he defaulted on a car loan. Who paid for Mom's root canal because they weren't covered. Who co-signed Matt's lease after he got fired from yet another tech startup. I've been cleaning up after my family for over a decade. Quietly. Without complaint. Without thanks. So when Dad looked at me after Rachel's Maldives speech and said, "You'll help out, of course," like he was assigning me a grocery run, something twisted in my gut. Help out wasn't a request. It was code. Code for, open your wallet, and don't ask questions. And that was the first sign something was deeply wrong. The old me might have said yes. Might have rearranged finances, drained the emergency fund, pushed my own plans further down the road. But this time? This time was different. 2 days after that dinner, I got a text from Rachel. It was a link to a resort. Not just any resort. This place looked like it was built by billionaires, for billionaires. Overwater villas, private butlers, crystal clear lagoons. The kind of place where drinks don't have prices on the menu because if you have to ask, you don't belong there. Her message said, "This is the one. Dad said you'd take care of it. Can't wait." I just stared at my phone. Couldn't even bring myself to type a response. It didn't surprise me that she expected it. What stunned me was how matter-of-fact she was about it. There was no question, no hesitation. It was assumed, like my entire existence had been boiled down to one purpose, funding Rachel's fantasy life. I didn't reply. Not right away. I waited until the next evening, after a long day at work and a 2-hour detour to drop off some paperwork for Matt at the DMV, another one of those quiet favors I do without thinking. When I got home, I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my budgeting app, and looked at the numbers. I could technically afford it. Barely. But it would gut everything I'd been working for. No down payment on a house next year. No cushion if Mom's health took another nosedive. No savings for the business I'd been dreaming of launching for years. And all for what? So Rachel could drink overpriced cocktails in a rented paradise, and pretend she was on a reality show? I called Dad the next morning. I figured I owed him the courtesy of a direct conversation, though part of me already knew how it would go. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, champ. She sent you the link?" "She did," I said, trying to keep my tone level. "Dad, I'm not paying for this." Silence. Then, in that tone I'd grown up with, the one that sounded like disappointment and authority had a baby, he said, "Excuse me? I'm not paying for a $40,000 wedding," I said, voice steady. "I've done enough. More than enough. You think we're asking for a favor?" he snapped. "This is what family does. You always help. You always step up. And now suddenly you've got a backbone? That's not fair," I said, keeping my voice calm. "You're not asking for help. You're demanding a sacrifice." Then it happened. That explosion I knew was coming but still wasn't ready for. Dad's voice thundered through the phone like a punch. "You're dead to me." I didn't flinch. I didn't yell back. I just breathed in, slow and deep. "Cool," I said. "Then don't call when you need help." And I hung up. There was a strange peace in that moment. Like when you finally drop a heavy bag you've been carrying so long, you forgot what it felt like to stand up straight. For the first time in my adult life, I had said no. And meant it. I didn't know what would come next. But whatever it was, I was done playing the part of the reliable fool. The silence afterward was almost too quiet. No phone calls. No texts. Not from Dad, not from Rachel, not even from Mom, who usually played the buffer when things got tense. I half expected someone to show up at my door the next day with a guilt-tripping casserole and a speech about forgiveness. But nothing. It was eerie. For 3 days the silence held. Then came the Instagram posts. Rachel's feed lit up like a fireworks display. She posted a photo of the resort, same one from the link she sent me, with the caption, "When family fails you, you do it yourself. Hashtag bride on a budget, kinda lol." Followed by a string of emojis and a picture of her sipping champagne in a boutique bridal shop. Comments poured in from her friends. "So proud of you, Queen! Who needs him anyway? Ugh, brothers can be so selfish." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Everyone saw the post, our extended family, our cousins, even my coworkers. A few people messaged me privately, asking what happened. I gave them the same answer I gave myself. I finally said no. But then came the kicker. A week later, I got a call from my cousin Jenny. She's one of the few people in the family I actually trust, quiet, observant, never buys into Rachel's drama. She works in finance, and she's the kind of person who reads contracts for fun. "Hey," she said. "I didn't want to get involved, but have you seen what's going on with the wedding payments?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Your dad's been trying to finance it himself. Took out a personal loan. And a credit card. Possibly two. I overheard him talking to Uncle Dan at brunch. He sounded panicked." My stomach dropped. That explained the silence. That explained the smug confidence in Rachel's posts. Dad was trying to prove something. That he didn't need me. That he could make this work without his ungrateful son. But if he was trying to do it alone, he was in over his head. Fast. Sure enough, over the next few days, the cracks started to show. Rachel posted a story that just said, "Change of plans," followed by a photo of her crying in a parking lot. The venue apparently backed out due to unexpected funding issues. A few vendors started tagging her in posts about unpaid invoices. The wedding planner posted a cryptic tweet about clients who ghost when the bill's due. I watched it all unfold from a distance, like someone observing a train wreck in slow motion. And still, no one called me. Until they did. 3 weeks after I walked out of Dad's life, my phone buzzed with a familiar name, Dad. I let it ring. Then it buzzed again. And again. On the 4th call, I picked up. His voice was hoarse. Smaller than I remembered. "Hey, it's me. Listen, I know things got heated, but we've run into a little snag. The resort cancelled. Flights are due next week. Vendors are threatening legal action. I'm tapped out." I didn't say a word. "We just need some help. To float things. Just until it's sorted." I paused. Let the silence sit heavy. Then I asked, "Why are you calling a ghost?" There was a pause. The weight of that line must have landed. He cleared his throat. "Come on, son. Let's not do this. It's family." I smiled, bitter and tired. "Exactly. And family doesn't bury one of their own just because he stopped handing over his paycheck." Then I hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel cold. I just felt free. And that freedom? It was about to cost them more than they ever expected. Rachel tried to save face. I'll give her that much. She doubled down on the image. Photoshopped beach pics. Throwback. Posts from a bachelorette weekend that may or may not have happened. Countdown timers on her Instagram story. 3 days till forever. 2 days until IDO, but it was all smoke. Behind the scenes, the wedding was unraveling like a cheap ribbon. I didn't hear from Dad again, not directly. But my cousin Jenny kept me in the loop. Apparently, the resort had pulled out when the second deposit bounced. The photographer canceled after receiving a rubber check. The flights? booked under a group rate that was never finalized. Most guests didn't even know yet. They were still packing, still checking weather forecasts, still tagging Rachel in posts like, "Maldives, here we come!" It was like watching people dance on the deck of the Titanic. Then came the group chat. A massive, sprawling text thread made by Rachel to coordinate guests and travel. I'd been in it from the start but had muted it weeks ago. I unmuted just in time to watch it catch fire. First, someone asked when they'd be getting the final itinerary. Then another guest chimed in. Flights hadn't been confirmed. Someone else asked if the welcome dinner was still happening, because they just called the resort and were told the event was cancelled. Then boom. Wait. Is the wedding not happening? Rachel's response was a frantic wall of texts. Everything is fine. Just a miscommunication. Please stop calling the resort. We had to pivot slightly, but it's still on. Please don't listen to gossip. But by then, the guests were piecing things together faster than she could lie. Someone posted a screenshot from the resort's Facebook page announcing a closure for maintenance, clearly a cover story, but damning all the same. Another person shared a private message from the photographer. I haven't been paid. I'm out. That was it. The thread exploded. And in the middle of it all, buried between the frantic apologies and unanswered questions, Dad made his appearance. Not in the chat. No, he showed up at my apartment. It was the night before what should have been the wedding. I opened the door and there he was, suit slightly wrinkled, face pale, eyes sunken. He looked like a man who'd just come from a funeral. We need to talk, he said. I leaned against the doorway. About what? I thought I was dead to you. He looked down. I was angry. I didn't mean it. You meant it, I said. But now that you're the one drowning, suddenly the ghost can help. He didn't argue. Just stood there, hands trembling at his sides. She's falling apart, he said quietly. I've never seen her like this. I waited. Let him sit in the silence. Then he said, just tell me what to do. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. For both of them. Almost. But then I remembered the years. The expectations. The way they looked at me like I was a resource, not a son. A tool, not a person. So I said, you figure it out. And I shut the door. Inside, I stood there for a while. The quiet of my apartment humming around me. I could still see his shadow through the frosted glass, standing there like a man waiting for a miracle. But none came. It hit the news feed before I even finished my morning coffee. A live video, shaky and vertical, posted by one of Rachel's bridesmaids. The caption? I don't even know what's happening anymore. Curiosity got the best of me, so I tapped in. There she was, Rachel, in her wedding dress, standing in a half-decorated event hall that was most definitely not the Maldives. The veil was crooked. Her shoes were off. She was barefoot, pacing the marble floor like a caged animal, mascara streaking down one side of her face. There were maybe 15 guests awkwardly seated, most of them whispering, checking their phones, clearly trying to figure out if they were still at a wedding or had wandered into an episode of a docuseries about family meltdowns. She was crying, loud, theatrical sobs that echoed in the mostly empty room. And then she screamed. Not words. Just pure frustration. The bridesmaid filming whispered something like, should I turn this off? But she didn't. Of course not. Why would she? The video racked up views by the second. I sat back on my couch, letting the scene wash over me. My sister, who'd once told me I was selfish for not wanting to give up my savings to pay for her tanning sessions before prom, was now publicly unraveling, because the world refused to keep enabling her delusions. I didn't feel joy. But I didn't feel guilt either. Later that day, Jenny called. She's at Dad's now, she said. Won't stop crying. He looks like he aged 10 years overnight. Mom's just quiet. Scary quiet. And you? I asked. She sighed. I'm eating popcorn. Watching the world's most predictable train crash. There was a knock at my door that night. I knew who it was before I opened it. Rachel. still in her dress. Not the full thing anymore, just the corseted top and some sandals she must have borrowed from Mom. Her eyes were red. Her fake lashes clung to one cheek. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me like she couldn't believe I was real. Like the world had finally run out of people to blame, and I was the last stop before the mirror. She started. Her voice cracked. I just wanted it to be perfect. I nodded once. Yeah. I know. She sniffled. You were supposed to help me. No, I said gently. I was supposed to live my own life. Silence. She didn't argue. Maybe for the first time ever, she had nothing left to say. Then she asked, Can I come in? I shook my head. Not tonight. Not out of cruelty. But because some lessons can't be softened. Some people need to sit in the wreckage a little longer to understand what built the fire. She stood there a while longer, then nodded and turned away. As I closed the door, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. The group text came through at 7:12 a.m. on a Sunday. Dad, we all need to sit down and talk. Family meeting. 5 p.m. Our place. No greeting. No punctuation beyond that one period. Just like him, blunt and performative, as if sending a text was enough to reestablish the authority he'd lit on fire 3 weeks ago. I stared at it for a long time. Then I got up, made myself breakfast, and went about my day. Around noon, Jenny texted. Are you going? I replied. Not sure. She sent back a single word. Smart. I didn't respond. At 4:55 p.m., I sat in my car outside their house, watching the sun crawl across the driveway. The same house I'd patched up after that winter storm 3 years ago. The same house where I'd once stood outside Rachel's room, waiting for her to unlock the door after she screamed that her life was over because her Sweet 16 party had the wrong balloon colors. It was quiet now. No music. No laughter. Just the faint buzz of a lawnmower a few houses down, and the low hum of something unraveling inside. At exactly 5 p.m., I turned the key, started the engine, and drove away. I didn't need to be there. Not anymore. Turns out, I didn't miss much. Jenny filled me in the next morning. They tried to do that thing where they pretend nothing happened, she said, chewing her bagel over the phone. Your dad talked for a full 10 minutes about responsibility. About family obligations. Like he wasn't the one who cursed you out and tried to use your money to buy a tropical circus. And Rachel? I asked. She cried, Jenny said flatly. Then asked if anyone had seen the dress bag because she was thinking about returning it. Not to get money back, just because she couldn't stand looking at it. Wow. Yeah. Your mom stayed quiet. Mostly watched the carpet. Your name came up once. Then your dad said, let's not bring him into this, like you weren't the only reason the whole thing didn't catch fire months ago. I let the silence hang. I wasn't surprised. Just numb to it. They're gonna keep spinning, Jenny added. Trying to patch the holes, pretend they're the ones who held it all together. But this time? Everyone saw the unraveling. I took a breath. That was the moment it hit me, for once, the weight wasn't mine to carry. And I wasn't going back for it. A few days later, I got a text from Mom. Just one sentence. Can we talk? I stared at it for a while. It wasn't I'm sorry. It wasn't we were wrong. It wasn't even how are you. Just vague enough to feel harmless. Just familiar enough to sting. I didn't reply. The next morning, she showed up at my door. She stood there holding a Tupperware container, like we were still playing house and not trying to rebuild a bridge she helped burn. I made lasagna, she said softly, like that was supposed to mean something. I looked at it. Then at her. She smiled, tight, hopeful. Your father didn't mean what he said. I raised an eyebrow. He said I was dead to him. She winced. He was upset. So was I. But I didn't try to bury my son alive. Her face fell. She shifted the container in her hands like it might explain what words couldn't. Then she said it. You know how your father is. I nodded once. Yeah. I do. And I closed the door. Lasagna stayed on the porch. I didn't hear from Rachel again, until I did. It started with a Venmo request. $147 labeled. Reimbursement for dress fittings. No context. No apology. Just a quiet little digital tap, like I might have forgotten I owed her something. I stared at it for a solid minute before declining it and adding a note. I don't finance fiction. A few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, a text. Rachel. I don't know who you think you are. I didn't respond. Then came another. Rachel. You made this so much worse than it had to be. All you had to do was show up. You didn't have to be a hero. Just family. That one stuck for a second. Because she meant it. She really thought family meant showing up with a checkbook, smiling through the dysfunction, and pretending everything she wanted was owed to her. That had always been the role I played. The one who fixes, funds, and fades into the background. But not anymore. So I finally replied. Me. You called me selfish. Dad called me dead. And now you want me to pretend none of it happened? There was no response for a while. Then, at 11:47 p.m., just as I was falling asleep, she sent one more message. Rachel. I don't know who I am without you fixing things. I stared at it. No anger. No sarcasm. Just raw truth for once. But I didn't reply. Some silences need to stay whole. He called me from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. His voice wasn't loud this time. No thunder. No edge. Just gravel. I messed up. 3 words. That's how it started. I didn't think you'd really walk away. I didn't think you could. You've always been the one who stepped in. The one who cleaned up the mess. There was a pause, the kind that stretches between years. I thought you'd bail us out like always. Honestly, I thought I had more time to fix it. I didn't think Rachel would fall apart like that. Another pause. You were right. The words landed softly. Not defensive. Not proud. You didn't owe us anything. And I didn't earn what I asked of you. I see that now. I just wanted to say that. That I'm sorry. The message ended there. No ask. No follow-up. Just silence. I sat in the dark for a long time after that. Not angry. Not even relieved. Just still. Dad had finally said what I never thought he would. Not with fire. Not with fists. Just truth. But I didn't call him back. Because sometimes, the apology comes too late to restore what was lost. And sometimes, it's not about mending the bridge. It's about learning you were never the one who broke it. It's been 6 months since that last call. Rachel never followed up. Dad never called again. Mom texted once, a photo of the family dog in a sweater with a one-word caption. Thought you'd like this. I didn't reply. The silence has held.